we begin this hour with a medical breakthrough you're seeing first on CBS Mornings. It could offer hope to millions of people who suffer from paralysis or other movement impairment. A new clinical study is looking at how computer chips implanted in the brain and guided by artificial intelligence can restore links between the brain, the spinal cord, and impaired limbs. And researchers say the results so far are beyond expectations. Our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, went to Long Island, New York to meet the study's first participant. He's been paralyzed for 3 years and is now doing things he never thought possible.
Hey. Nice to meet you.
I have never walked into an interview looking more forward to shake someone's hand than I was to meet Keith Thomas.
May I shake your hand?
Of course.
Can you feel that?
Yes.
You can feel my hand.
Yeah.
Feeling my hand, or anything at all, is a big deal for Thomas. You see, 3 summers ago, he miscalculated the depth of a pool. He took a dive, and in a flash, his life changed forever. He broke his neck and was paralyzed from the chest down. Gone was any feeling below his chest. He was 42 years old.
Did you take your independence for granted?
Totally. I didn't even think about it.
For Thomas, independence was everything. He had an active social life and a successful career in finance. He entertained clients, went out to dinner almost every night of the week. In many ways, he was the life of the party.
When you found out you were paralyzed, do you remember how you felt?
I didn't believe it. I was like, no, I'm not.
But when he got home from the hospital, his grim new reality became real apparent.
When I first got home, I didn't get out of bed. I got out of bed once a day for 6 months. I cried all the time. I was crying because I didn't have independence.
He was prepared to self-isolate forever. His aides and his family were really the only people he saw.
So, who's older?
I'm 2 years older.
Obviously.
That is his sister, Michelle Bennett, a near constant companion and caretaker. The accident, she says, brought them closer together. She told us that while he was still in the hospital and intubated in the ICU, she was positive about his prognosis because there were glimmers of the old Keith that she saw.
He still kept his sense of humor in September. He goes, Michelle, I'm just so hungry, because he couldn't eat yet. He goes, I've been hungry since August. Like.
And I watch the Food Network every day.
My father would come home from visiting him, like, I don't know how he does it. He can't eat anything, and he's watching that Food Network all day long. Nice.
But still, Thomas says at home, he was giving up hope. But then hope arrived in the form of a medical study that was just getting underway. It was conducted by Northwell Health in New York. Thomas was wheeled into surgery. And while remaining awake and alert,
What do you feel there, Keith? Fingers? Which finger? 2 or other one?
5 small chips were implanted into his brain.
The third one, like your middle finger? Okay. Okay, good.
It's called a double neuro bypass.
So now we're connecting to the brain.
Those chips can now send and interpret signals from his brain to his damaged spinal cord and to his hands and back to his brain.
Open. Guys.
The result is that Thomas's thoughts can now control new movement in his hands.
Close. Nice.
Now, much of the new sensations Thomas feels only happen in the lab with the help of a new computer connected to his skull. But there is something remarkable happening even when he's not attached to that.
So like the rest I can feel without this.
So paralyzed areas can relearn?
Yes. Yes.
Engineer Chad Boughton directs the team at the Neural Bypass Lab. He says among the most exciting aspects of the study is the progress Thomas has made when he's not at the lab.
But how can so-called dead tissue all of a sudden be enabled as a result of this therapy?
We think it's a combination of the electrical stimulation that activates those damaged circuits that are in his spinal cord. And then we believe it's starting to strengthen those connections. There's a saying that neurons that fire together wire together. We think that's part of what's happening.
Give me 10 minutes rest.
Well, you know, sometimes the biggest progress comes in the smallest steps forward. In his case, a reminder of what it feels like to feel.
What's the most extraordinary thing you've been able to do thanks to this?
Scratch my face. And hopefully eventually wipe my tears away.
David, you asked the question that I was thinking, and I didn't know how to formulate it. You said paralyzed areas can relearn, and his answer almost shocked you.
Well, Nate, it blew my mind. I mean, he's paralyzed, and so you're telling me that now this man can, they took the machine off, and I did this to his arm, and he could feel it. I was like, well, how can you feel that with everything off? And that's when the engineer, Chad, further explained that this neurons start connecting and rewiring. My little brain couldn't comprehend that was even possible. It was mind-blowing.
And how are his spirits, David? I mean, it's his description of those early days was so heartbreaking.
Well, John, I would describe it as more emotional than joyful. You know, I mean, look, this was a guy who lived life like it was never going to end. And it came crashing down one day. And so he is so immensely grateful. And I think about the opportunities for other people like him, right? Stroke patients, people with movement disorders, right? I mean, the possibilities are endless here. Keith just happens to be person number one benefiting from it first.
And we said this earlier, we were talking about other technology, but it's nice to have smart people out there, but seeing how it can work and the difference, the idea that he can wipe away his own tears. David, that would be remarkable. Thank you. And what an incredible story, incredible young man out there.
No doubt about it.
You always bring him, David.